Hello again, I'm Bob Weir with another interview of notable people in North Texas. My guest today is Forrest Beadle, who is running for the Republican nomination for Denton County Criminal Court Number 3, known as the Veterans Court. The Republican primary is on March 6th. Thank you for being here, Mr. Beadle.
Thank you, Mr. Ware. Appreciate being here.
If you would begin, please, by giving our viewers some background information on yourself, such as education, occupation, etc.
Okay. Well, Bob, my name is Forrest Beadle. I'm a felony prosecutor with the Denton County District Attorney's Office. I'm a felony court chief in the 367th Judicial District Court. I've been doing that job for 12 years now as far as being a prosecutor. I'm an Army vet. I was a tank officer for 6 years. I'm married to my wife, Jill, who is a nurse administrator outside what used to be known as Denton Regional Hospital. It's now HCA. She was in the military herself. She was a nurse corps. She did that for 4 years. We have 2 children, Abby Mae and also Molly Jean. And I live in Denton, kind of right over by Ryan Elementary.
All right, so let's begin with the questions. Like, how many criminal courts are there in Denton County?
Well, there are different types of criminal courts in Denton County. The one I'm running for, there are a total of 5. These are county criminal courts. They're literally numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Right. And as far as district courts are concerned, there's several general district courts like the 367th that handle all types of cases, including criminal cases.
Mm-hmm. And the district courts generally handle the felonies, right?
Correct. The county criminal courts, the 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, they primarily do misdemeanors. They have some specialty courts, but the district courts primarily handle the felony cases. Well, do handle the felony cases.
And the court that you're running for, Criminal Court Number 3, it's also known as the Veterans Court?
Correct. It's our designated Veterans Treatment Court.
And when was it established, the Veterans Treatment Court?
The Veterans Court was established by statute by the Texas Legislature back in 2009. They passed a bill creating a Veterans Treatment Court to help deal with the veterans that were coming back primarily from Iraq, but also Afghanistan, but from the surge, that were getting into trouble with the law because of their military experiences. Right. The first version of the law dealt specifically with combat vets. In 2015, they altered it a little bit to include other types of what we refer to as military trauma. That could be military sexual trauma. It could be trauma that was experienced not necessarily in a combat zone, but nevertheless there has to be a connection between what occurred to you in the service and the crime that you committed. And that's where it gets really difficult to spot these vets that are eligible for this program, because a lot of time that does not end up in a police report.
Yeah, and that would be those affected by PTSD?
Correct, primarily PTSD. Yep. Yeah.
And so when a veteran goes to a criminal court like this is the Criminal Court Number 3, what are some of the remedies that are offered to them? How do you treat a vet differently than you would treat another person who's charged with the same crime?
Very good question. What the law can allow you to do is create a little subsection of a population, and that's what they've done with the Veterans Court law. Because of their military background and because of their experiences that they had while they were in the military, that allows us to take a veteran. We do a very thorough job of screening them, but at the same time we're screening them, we're developing what we call their integrated treatment plan. It's very specialized to that individual vet based off their experiences and what their needs are. Certain crimes will not qualify for the program, certain crimes do, and it's the district attorney's office role to properly screen those individuals and decide who qualifies under the law, but also who also qualifies under the criteria for the district attorney's office to come in. Okay, and so Mr. Johnson, the current elected district attorney, he has a very, I get in trouble a lot of times for using this term in the Republican Party, but he has a very liberal policy when it comes to who can come in. Yeah. And it's easier to talk about who can't. We do not take sexual offenses. We do not take cases that involve child victims. We don't take aggravated offenses. We don't take drug dealers. We don't take violent offenses or like intox assaults or manslaughters. Okay. Pretty much everything else is eligible. Now, we will look at everything because a lot of times there are circumstances that might allow one of those crimes I listed, not the sexual offenses or the kid cases, but allow them an opportunity to come in. But once they come in, we link them up with local counselors, but also the Department of Veterans Affairs, the VA. We have specific people that work with us with our court program directly from the VA, and that allows us to open up opportunities to go to Bonham, to inpatient treatment, to Dallas, to Waco, and that is something that these veterans are generally eligible for. But it's very specific to the veteran as far as what their needs are, whether we treat them locally or we get them help through the VA. And that's a huge connection that has to be maintained.
Okay, so there is no guarantee because they're a veteran that they're going to be treated that way by the court?
Correct.
Right.
You know, I mentioned I'm a veteran myself. I was 6 years in the United States Army. I served between December of '94 and January of '01. I'm a peacetime veteran. I would not qualify for this program that I started back in 2009, 2010, as far as working towards it, because I do not meet the criteria under the statute for coming in.
And you may have mentioned this already, felonies, if they're charged with felonies.
Correct.
They still get treatment in this court.
They can, depending on the type of felony.
Type of
Most of
felony.
the felonies that we have dealt with, although we have dealt with an aggravated offense, an aggravated assault, they can come into the program, but it's very case and fact specific. The other thing you have to keep in mind too is we take DWIs and we also take domestic violence cases. And those type of cases sometimes can involve victims. And as a part of my job as the representative for the DA's office, that is one of the things that I do is I check with the victim because they deserve justice too. However, if they're understanding and they're willing to, I guess, see this person on probation, ultimately we make the decision there, but we take the victim's thoughts into account because they deserve justice too within the system. And so a lot of those cases will involve felony cases. Most of the felony cases we would deal with are going to be some sort of a drug-related charge.
What about capital crimes?
That's why the district attorney is involved in this screening process. The way the statute is written, there are no bars from the legislature on what type of case could come in. And so literally it can be anything in the penal code. The legislature very smartly left this up to the local jurisdictions, to your local district attorneys, to decide what that jurisdiction would support here. And like I said, Mr. Johnson has a very wide open policy. We take folks that have been honorably discharged. We take folks that got something less than an honorable discharge. It all depends on their situation and kind of the case review and the screening process we do with the district attorney's office.
And what about repeat offenders? If a vet has had an adjudication by the court and then is back in court again for another similar crime.
Correct.
Or a worse crime, they continue to get the same type of treatment?
Well, that's kind of two questions there, and I'll explain what I mean by that. Part of the screening process, what we do is we take a very close look at their criminal history, okay, and how many times they've been through the system before they got to applying for Veterans Court. Sometimes that criminal history is something that as a prosecutor and as a district attorney, not to speak for Mr. Johnson, that's something you can't ignore, okay, and that might bar them from the court. And in fact, many times that's what bars a veteran from the court. They've just been through the system too many times. It doesn't mean we can't help them on the back end, but if they do come into the program and they do successfully complete the program or don't, they kind of get one shot at vet court. There's nothing in the statute that says that, but not only Denton County's program, but Tarrant County's program, Dallas's program, they all kind of observe that one-time rule.
All right, let me ask you this. Why do you feel that you're the best candidate for this position?
That's a very good question. Back in 2012, when we started this program, I had initially approached Judge Richard Bogorski, who was a Vietnam Marine. He had served 2 tours over there, and he agreed to do it. Judge Bogorski had to step back for that because he was getting ready to retire, and not to speak for the judge, but I think he had some health issues at that point. And I approached the current incumbent, my opponent, David Garcia, who's not a veteran. And one of the things over the last 5 years with this program, the fact that he is not a veteran, that has come into play considerably in the court as far as how these veterans are held accountable. And it's not just accountability to protect the public, because all these treatment court programs are designed to protect the public first and foremost. The accountability or the lack thereof in the program generally affects how these veterans are getting their treatment, whether or not they're staying on their treatment plan and getting the sobriety they need. That's key for most of these. And with my military background and my experience as a prosecutor and having done this program literally from the ground up, that makes me the better candidate for this job. I want to see increased numbers with the court, but without that strict supervision, we're going to have an issue with that.
Well, Forrest, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I would like to say I would greatly appreciate your vote on March the 6th. Early voting starts the 20th. And I'm out there knocking on doors and talking to people and talking to a lot of veterans about the importance of putting a veteran back in charge of Veterans Court here in Denton County. All our surrounding courts have judges, to my knowledge, that are former military. We modeled ourselves after Judge Carr down in Tarrant County, and that is probably the Cadillac program. And of course, Judge Carr is a Marine Corps vet himself. It makes a huge difference in the program, and I think it will increase our numbers here in Denton County greatly.
Well, I want to thank you, Forrest, for being here, and good luck in the election.
Thank you very much, Bob. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Thank you.
And thank you for watching.